Howdy, and welcome to the EEARSS podcast produced by Terrier TV. I am Alligator Rob. I am joined as always by Bill and Cindy. Howdy, y'all. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good, yeah.
How was Thanksgiving, guys?
Oh, right. We haven't seen each. It's been a long time
We
since
haven't
we've
seen each other in a
each
couple of
other.
weeks. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. What's been going on? How was the... Tell me about the festivities. Did the turkey attack anybody?
No. Thanksgiving was good. I had a cold though,
I'm sorry, Bob.
and my niece had just had a baby, and she brought the new baby to the house,
Oh, my garage.
and so I had to stay
Aw.
on the other side of the house because I didn't want to give the new baby a cold, and so I really didn't get to see the baby. So
Aw.
that was
What's the youngin's name?
Kiara.
That's beautiful.
Well,
So
it's
there you go.
interesting name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. From the Lion King, I think.
Is it really?
Somewhere. Yeah, I think it's from the Lion King. Yeah.
The Lion King. Okay.
Yep. We're naming kids after cartoons now. It's weird.
I've heard worse.
Oh yeah.
Cindy, how was yours?
Pretty good.
Yeah. Calm and relaxed, or was it utter chaos?
It was calm and relaxed this year.
Okay.
Actually, it was very nice.
All
I
right.
actually had a few days off from work.
Okay.
I don't believe it either.
That's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah, it was nice.
And yet we had our Ears to the Environment Eco Fest since then too.
Oh yes,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah, it's that went over very well. Successful event. Did what I hoped we would do with it. You know, we broke even with what we put into it, which was for the first event all we could hope for, and
Right.
it went well. I'm sure somebody cried, but I didn't see anybody cry.
Okay. Did you have a lot of people? Were there?
There
a lot
were
of people out
there were a lot of people. We probably had maybe 3,000 people go through the day.
Okay.
We didn't realize it until maybe a month or so before that it was the same weekend that they were doing the craft fair at Fox Lake and a bunch of other things that were going on. So there was, I want to say, 3 different conservation events throughout the county going on at the same time. But
Okay.
I feel like we did pretty good. It was a great opportunity for everybody to network and kind of explain different projects they were working on, things that are going on, and for the different nonprofits to see other organizations that are interested in helping them and being part of it all. It's a nice little ecosystem of people at the same time. You know,
Okay.
I thought it was pretty good.
Cool.
All you could hope for.
Cool.
All you could hope for.
On
But
another subject, I was thinking this morning. When are we doing trivia?
when are we doing trivia?
Yeah.
Oh, that is coming up soon, isn't it, Cindy?
Isn't it?
It's
No?
in February, and I should know the day. but
Is it already booked?
Yes.
Okay.
I am the worst.
We might have to see about
No,
kidnapping this fella beside of us for that, Bill.
Oh yeah.
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 We have to talk you into that. All right, you guys. Speaking of that, you guys ready to get into our guest today?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, so today on the podcast, we are joined by Mr. Keith Winsten of the Brevard Zoo. Keith, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. How's it going, buddy?
It's going okay. I felt a little left out. You didn't ask me about Thanksgiving, though.
Yeah, let's ask you about it now. Tell me
There
all
we
about
go.
it, bub.
You know, Thanksgiving was wonderful. I did not have a cold, so that was good.
So there you go. That's
There
always
were no
good.
babies. Actually, there was a toddler, and he was actually really cute, and we got to
Aw.
interact with him, and we ate too much food because, it's a holiday of abundance. But mostly, we got to hang out with all my kids who don't live here, so that was really awesome.
Is your Thanksgiving at your place anything like it is with the Robb family? Are there any critters involved?
Oh my God! So you have to understand, we are a dog-based life form. So,
Okay, there we go.
There
Yeah.
were 3 doodles and 2 blue healers, which is an
Wow.
interesting
Wow.
combination of dogs. And only the reason there wasn't a 4th doodle is that one of our relatives who was supposed to come visit, they got sick, so they didn't come. So yeah, it's a very dog-centric event.
Lots of big fuzzy critters.
Lots of big fuzzy critters, and then if you know blue healers, 2 sort of gnarly, snarly little ones who run around and nip everybody else.
High energy.
High energy. It's really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like controlled chaos.
Yeah, it was good, and nobody fought, nobody cried. You know, my kids are all out of the house and grown up, so that's good.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, that's a beautiful thing. So, Keith, tell us about the Brevard Zoo. A little bit about your journey to the zoo and
Sure.
all that stuff.
well, Brevard Zoo, I think people in Brevard County know it and own it, which is awesome. When I first started here 18 years ago, actually, I went up to different parts of the county. I came to the county commissioner in Titusville and said, hey, are we yours? Do you feel like you want to see it? Yeah, absolutely. Right down 95. It's quick to get there. And so, the zoo was, we're 28 years old, built by the people of Brevard County, really a community zoo, managed, by a board for the community. And I came here 18 years ago because I was moving into this role as a zoo director, and a lot of us at the time had no idea what questions we should ask. I happened to land at a place that was perfect for me because we're completely independent. We're not part of a government body, so we're very entrepreneurial. We like to take risks, and we like to say yes to things and do crazy things. And that was a good match for me. And I think we've really reflected the needs of the community.
Yeah, I would say that hands down, the Brevard Zoo is a cornerstone of Central Florida, not just the Space Coast, but Central Florida, and everything conservation based has a root or a tie to the zoo, and somebody there and somebody there is part of it, or a volunteer is part of it, or you guys you're involved in everything.
Well, not everything, but we like to say we answer the call. I mean, that's become our unofficial catchword, and literally agencies and people come to us and say, what are you going to do about it, or how can I help? And that's actually how we started. Someone from the Sierra Club said, what are you going to do to help save scrub jays? And not long afterwards, a guy at the federal side came and said, hey, we need some help figuring out how to translocate scrub jays from properties that are about to be developed. And that really set the stage for us. That's how we've been ever since. People come to us with challenges or problems or something, and then we typically say yes and then try to figure out how to pay for it later.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
Worked for us. It's been good.
What are some new things you guys are working on down there at the zoo right now? Maybe some new projects, some new exhibits, things like that?
Sure. Well, one of the things, as I said, we try to reflect the needs of the community. And so we've been doing a little more in the arts because we no longer have an art museum here in Brevard County. So we just actually opened this incredible exhibit called Bold Boar's Visions of Florida. And we commissioned 27 artists who actually painted surfboards. Mostly natural scenes, but whatever struck them as indicative of Florida, and they're mounted all over the zoo, and they're absolutely stunning. It came out so much better than we ever hoped. I mean, we ended up supporting artists, and they delivered beautiful works, and they're mounted all over the zoo, and it's just a really unusual thing to see in the zoo setting. Some of them are from famous surfers. Kelly Slater has a board there right up in front, done by Derek Gores, who's one of our more prominent artists. So you're seeing some great artwork in a unique setting. It just adds a set of whimsy and vision that's really nice. And that just opened. That'll be there to the end of April. We added lions at the beginning of, actually in May of 2022, but they went into a temporary home.
Okay.
And we're starting work on their permanent home, which will be in our Africa section. And that will open in 2023. Just figuring out how to do all that construction around, giraffes and zebras and rhinos and all of those things.
There's so many cool exhibits down there. You guys have, the place is continually to evolve, and just there's all these new things that are always coming out. I know that the time before last, I think I was down there last, you guys had just got the otters in. Otters are the coolest critter ever. I think I was just amazed for literally probably an hour standing there watching
Giant
the
otters
play.
are great. They're vocal. They're 6 feet long. People were laughing. I don't know what. So someone was talking about what happens if the jaguar ever got out and got to the otter exhibit, which would never ever happen, for the record, never. But I wouldn't want to be that jaguar. You don't want to mess with those 2 6-foot otters. So
Yeah, those things are no joke.
They're no joke. They're mustelids, as you know. They're giant members of the weasel families, and weasels have a reputation for that reason. But yeah, and sometimes the funniest thing, we're managing a group of turkeys now, sort of in our Wild Florida section, and these 3 baby turkeys have just caught the imagination of people. They're all named after casseroles. I think one's tater tot and one's green bean, and they're all and I'll tell you, I love those 3 turkey poults. I mean, they're the ugliest thing, right? Because until they become mature turkeys, they look sort of raggedy, but they have a following now because you're seeing them in this beautiful natural setting, and you're watching them grow up in this, setting in with deer in a beautiful sort of canopy overhead. So yeah, there's usually something fun happening that's a little different.
Do you find it, a lot of people when they think of zoos, they think of generations past, because what zoos started in maybe the 50s, 60s?
Oh, zoos started thousands of years ago.
Well, I mean, zoos as America knows it, it was something
100 years ago.
Yeah,
really.
about that time.
Yeah.
Are you finding you have to try different things to engage the youth, or are they just already interested in what's going on?
I think they are. I mean, it's interesting. So first of all, we have many more adults that come to the zoo than kids.
Right.
And that's just because a kid really can't drive there by himself and go. So otherwise, we'd have a lot more kids. No, I don't think we have any problem engaging youth. I will tell you a story. When I started out in the zoo business, we were, a lot of zoos work actively with underserved audiences. And I was in a zoo in Providence, Rhode Island, and we're trying to attract sort of urban youth, and we ended up setting a program. And I remember we were talking to some kids after school, and this one kid was just this kid was much cooler at age 16 than I would ever be. He dressed better. He was cooler. There was, and he thought we were really the stupidest thing ever, until he walked around to this underwater viewing of the sea lion exhibit, and raised in a 600-pound sea lion came just out of the gloom right at him at the glass, and he looked up and he said, "Holy," you can guess the rest of it.
There you go.
And we've named those a holy experience ever since.
Right.
And the kid was hooked.
That's
We didn't
great.
have to do much. He saw something beyond his coolness, and I think it's all in us. So put him in an experience with an authentic setting where people feel like they have a connection with those animals, and it's really a pretty, I don't know, distant, separate person who doesn't feel touched in some way.
I would agree.
I'll tell you one more story along those lines, which
Sure.
is one of my favorite stories. We always have deer at the zoo. They're foster deers. They're deers that came in out of the wild and they couldn't go back out from a rehab center. We have one right now named Plum who came in with a bad back leg. But so, we always have these deers, and our deers are come and actually feed from you when they want to. It's their choice. Guy pulled me aside one day. He's wearing all camo. And he goes, "I want you to tell you, I've been a deer hunter all my life. This is like my focus of my life. And my granddaughter feeding your deer was the best deer experience I've ever had." All respect to hunting. That's great. Go out, do it. Nothing against that at all. But here was this deer hunter who enjoyed his granddaughter, feeding the deer more than the time he'd spent in the woods, which was remarkable to me.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Connection.
So speaking of that a little bit, did you see yourself from a young man to where you are now? Was your goal all along to be a director of a zoo somewhere?
It's sort of funny. When I was age 6, I have 2 older sisters, and my mother came from France and was sort of proper. And when I was age 6, my oldest sister's best friend gave me a pair of garter snakes. We think to torment my mother. We think that was her goal. And they didn't last long. I think I fed them earthworms. It was not a good thing for these garter snakes. But I got hooked on the snake piece, as you well know.
Oh yeah.
And I think it maybe was in the back of my mind. When I came out of college, I wasn't looking for it. I went into the business world for a short period of time, and I didn't like working in an office building. So I don't know. I think it was buried ancestrally in my mind, maybe from that 6-year-old guy, playing with snakes.
Well, so how did you go from there to where you are now? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
So I got really lucky. I went to a junior or senior high school, and like 7th grade, this old estate next door was bought by the county and turned into a nature center. And it was like this, all the kids at the high school who loved animals mysteriously found themselves walking through the woods to this thing. I'm serious. We all came up and they hired some naturalists, and we started working with naturalists, and then they got a rehab license, and we started, working with wildlife. And so a lot of us with that interest started there. I did get a biology degree in college, and I did do a little bit with herps, but I didn't really think I'd go into it. As I mentioned, I ended up writing mutual fund accounting software for 9 months. Not a good fit, but I tried that world and didn't want it. And then I went back to working at nature centers for a few years before I got my job at the first zoo.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a diverse set of experiences.
Yeah.
So I know the Brevard Zoo right now has a big project they're working on. You guys have big things coming up. We've talked about that a little bit here on this podcast before. Tell us a little bit about that project and where it's at and where it's going.
I think that goes back to answering the call. One of the earlier things we started doing was working with University of Central Florida in the Mosquito Lagoon. They were doing this amazing oyster reef restoration work, a very distinct process fitting for that, and we ended up helping with them with that. And then migrating and starting to do that in other parts up and down the lagoon and developing our own expertise, although we always work with researchers and scientists who are doing the real work, with these initial processes. And so what we found over the last, 10, 15, probably 15 years is we end up doing a lot of marine restoration work and coastal conservation work. And along the way, we also made a realization that there's no major aquarium. There's no aquarium on the I-95 corridor south of Charleston, South Carolina. And with that idea and that realizing that Port Canaveral is this nexus of tourism, really the last 11 years of my life, we've been first playing with the idea, developing the economics to make sure it works, and then putting designs together. And really a little over a year ago, we signed agreements with the port. And so now we're on the sprint to raise $100 million by the fall of 2024. We're about $53 million in, so we're off to a good start, but we still have a lot of heavy lifting ahead of us. And the other interesting thing about all of that, so the design stuff is hundreds of pages of design, 12 buildings. I mean, it's very, very formidable, but very fun and concrete. The fundraising is a lot of talking to a lot of people. But what you don't think about is how our institution has to change to manage 2 campuses. And
Okay.
so that's the part we're just starting to take on, is conceptually, how do we run an institution that is going to essentially change from one campus? We actually have a second campus right now doing our marine restoration work, really 3 campuses. And how does that change, and how do we keep the soul of who we are while we go through that process?
So if people want to be involved with the zoo, with work you guys are doing down there, or with the new aquarium, how do they go about? Who do they go about contacting, and how do they go about that?
Well, obviously, we have a couple of websites, brevardzoo.org. You're going to find links to everything. And Brevard Zoo, there's like a get involved piece where you can donate or volunteer, all those things. Right on the landing page of brevardzoo.org, it's also our legacy campaign, and that's the campaign to build the aquarium. If you go there and link there, it'll talk about how you can get involved in sort of our community engagement pieces, as well as donating and becoming a founder for the aquarium. And it is going to be it takes a village methodology. It's a big lift for Brevard County. It's a lot of money, but I do think it's a transformational project that really comes along once a generation. I mean, the zoo was like last generation's piece, and this is this generation's piece. And we have children of zoo founders who are now grown up with kids of their own, and they're like putting their mark on it this way.
That's awesome.
And so we're excited about that.
So when is what's your goal for breaking ground? And
We
having
need
the
to break
thing built?
ground by the end of September 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long do you think it's going to take to build it?
2 years.
2 years? Okay.
Yeah, it depends if you're talking to optimists or pessimists.
Right,
I mean,
right.
in today's building environment, sometimes you have to order trusses a year ahead of time.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard. So the pessimists tell us that, you'll never get it done in 2 years, but we know people have done things like this in 18 months.
So is this, I haven't seen any pictures of
Yeah.
it. Right? Is it a multi-story thing?
It is a campus.
It's
Okay.
amazing.
It's a campus. It does. People sometimes goes, where's the aquarium? And the answer is all of it's the aquarium.
Oh, okay.
It's a 14-acre site right off of 528 on the Banana River, right by there, the port. You've probably passed it a million times if you go to the port, but you never noticed it. It's sort of high, and it's really a construction staging site for the port. But it's right next to a mangrove forest, and that's intact. We're not touching that.
Right.
There's a bird rookery off the shore, but all of it right now is sort of construction rubble.
It surely is.
And so it's multiple buildings, all borrowing the fabulous landscape around it. So it's really,
Okay.
it's not this big monolithic building.
So it's not something that is going to, like the tower thing that they have
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It's not like something that's
No,
going to stand out.
It's not going to stand out, although it will be visible from 528. And what's fantastic about that site is you can stand on the site and watch the cruise ships come by. And even though you're looking over 528, they're so massive, you see them come by.
Yeah.
And the entry building are, one of the things is we do a lot of functions at the zoo. And the entry building is beautiful and organic looking, but the second floor is really large function facility. So there are 3 decks there where you'll be able to watch launches and sunsets. And it's not a iconic building. It's going to be in the environment, but you will feel like you're in someplace special for sure.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
You saw the mock-ups they had there at the
I'm
EcoFest
blown
event.
away. Yeah,
Yeah.
blown away.
Zach had the picture of it sitting out there, and man, if I didn't know any better, I would have sworn that thing was actually already built. I'm
I
looking
know.
at that and going, man, this is unbelievable. I didn't, I've been going by that spot, like you're saying, for years and years, and wondered when someone was actually going to do something with that, and didn't realize that's where the aquarium was going. It's the perfect flipping spot.
Oh,
it is perfect.
It is. You couldn't design a better spot. We're really grateful to the folks at the port recognizing potentially best use of this spot, because they've been picky over the years about what could go in there. And this is an ideal spot, and it's out of their traffic flow too. So hopefully we'll work with them to minimize that. You don't have to deal with that. But we'll also bring some real assets to the port as people, they just had a spectacular year last year. I was just at the State of the Port today. Spectacular, and their number of passengers are going up. And those folks often arrive early, and now they'll have a place right in the port that they can go really enjoy a few hours here before they get on their boats and help all the cruise line folks get the folks off yesterday's boat and on again today. So it's, I think it's going to serve everybody really well.
It's going to be super busy, and people are going to be loving it.
Well, and I think Port Canaveral has become a port of call.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's second busiest cruise port. I mean, and they're just doing so well.
Mhm.
And they're thinking about these challenges. I mean, again, I was listening to them, and So essentially it's 2.5 million individual people coming through the port just for cruises.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all those people are looking for something to do beforehand or after.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And we want to start their cruise by thinking about their relationship to the ocean they're just about to go out on, right? And that's a huge opportunity for education and engagement. And for the people coming to the beaches, what I say is, welcome to Brevard County. We're happy you're here. Here's how we work with nature here in Brevard County, and here's how we'd like you to work with nature too.
It's a genius idea, especially you were saying it's pointed a lot at the different ecosystems we have here in Brevard as well.
Yeah, it's all local. I mean, our whole focus of the Aquarium is local. There's a piece in the second phase that will use, screens to transport you all over the world. So we'll take you to the Great Barrier Reef and the Galapagos. But in this first phase, it's all local stories. And the stories are great. We don't need to go anywhere else to tell those stories. They're really unique to us.
We do have some special places here, that's
Yeah.
for sure. We
Yeah.
have some special spots in our backyard, and people forever have taken it for granted. But when you really get out there, as you know, when you really get out there and start enjoying these spots, you can just get engulfed and lost in it if you want to.
As a tourist for many years before we moved here, we'd go all over Florida. And I don't know of a better place for seeing nature. I mean, in terms of consistently seeing what people want to see, right? From manatees to dolphins to sea turtles to birding. I mean, they're all here. You can see them more easily here than other places. And even the things as a birder, I'd specialize looking for, caracara or years ago wood stork or spoonbills. They're everyday birds here now. It's great.
True.
Even though, the birds are down in general, this is a great place to see them in Florida.
It's funny you mentioned wood storks. We used to always call them ironheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told me that. You even told me the reason why, and I can't remember now, but it was poetic.
They always have their heads stuck in the mud, so when they come back up, they got that whole mud coat.
like a Game of Thrones thing going
on.
on.
It kind of do, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, if winter has come, or
Okay, so I gave you a little bit of homework.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So you guys ready to do
Wait.
some trivia for a second? Or you got any more questions?
No, I'm not. I got
Okay.
another
No,
question.
ask more questions.
I got another question because he
Yeah.
said something that made me. You said you worked in Providence.
I did.
Okay. I grew up in 1st through 8th grade in Seekonk, Massachusetts,
Okay. Yeah.
which is right next
Yeah.
to Providence. And I used to go to Slater Park Zoo back in the day. This is in the 70s.
Yeah.
This is the early 70s. And, they had like a tiger and a polar bear and...
I worked
all
at
kinds
Roger
of things.
Williams Park Zoo in Providence, so it was a rival, man. I don't know.
Okay, so but see, I don't think it exists anymore.
I don't think it does either.
I think it disappeared
Yeah.
at some point. I just didn't know if you knew anything about it.
It was in, Bedford, and then there's a couple of zoos, small zoos around there. But I think Slater
Right.
Park Zoo was gone by the time I moved.
Yeah,
there.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was.
And my daughter is playing volleyball, is going to school at Roger Williams in Bristol, not that far from Seacock. So
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're back in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Bristol's actually the county seat for
Yeah.
whatever county they're in.
Yeah.
I forget it now. But yeah, it was cool because it was within walking distance of the house. You could
nice.
just walk over the railroad tracks and
I gotta
right into the
look
park.
that up. Okay, I'll check it out.
It was really cool.
That's really cool.
Small
Anyway,
world.
Yep.
It's a small world sometimes.
Yeah.
It really is. All right. You got a trivia question for us?
Sure.
All right. Hit us with one.
All right. The most famous giraffe at the zoo, our big breeding male giraffe. What's his name?
Oh, goodness.
Jeffrey.
Close, but no cigar.
I should know this, and I feel
George.
No, it's my
No.
son's name though.
it's
Okay.
a common name.
It's only because he's so iconic to the zoo. Rafiki.
Rafiki.
Ah, there we go.
That is not close to
another
Jeffrey.
Lion King name.
That's funny. That's what I was fixing to say. Another one.
Lion
Another
King
Lion
name,
King.
Yeah, these are
Wow.
actually Maasai names, so or not Maasai. They're but it's an African name.
I call them all baby, so I don't ever remember their names. They're all baby.
That is a very cool thing you guys have there, where you can go up and feed them and check them out and look at them. And man, it's a unique animal.
Yeah.
That is it's a big, powerful animal that doesn't get credit for it, I don't think.
Oh no, yeah. So Rafiki, the big male, their heads are like 200 pounds.
It's insane.
And
Wow.
and he's really nice with everyone else, but I think he sees me as a challenge. How people are, so I don't let his head get in swinging distance of me. Well, let's go down. Let's go down since that. So how long is a giraffe's tongue, roughly? If you want to go down that.
24 inches.
I'm going to say 3 feet.
14 inches.
You're the closest, 18 inches. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we're halfway. 24.
Yeah, I think she's closer.
She's close.
Where
Yeah,
was
right.
I at with a 3
Meth
foot
was
tongue?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Meth
where was
was
I
there.
at? Yeah.
Visions of sugar canes dancing in your
Yeah.
head.
Yeah,
So.
obviously, giraffes are not my critter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. We'll keep going with some animal trivia. So we got some lions in this year. Do you know how many lions and where they came from?
No, but I'm interested in hearing about it.
Yeah. So
Uh,
any guesses?
3 lions from Pittsburgh.
Close. 3 lions. You're right.
From
That's a good-
Pittsburgh.
Not from Pittsburgh,
Not
though.
from Pittsburgh.
Where,
Okay.
where they grow wild, right?
Where they grow
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
So people are always surprised to understand that there's a group of about 225 accredited zoos and aquariums across the country. It's sort
I
of
would
the-
guess Chicago, but yeah.
Yeah, but basically we work together. We collectively manage. It's like computer dating for animals. So our animals don't come out of the wild. They come from other zoos. So these 3 boys were born at the Naples Zoo.
Naples, okay.
And they have a pair of lions. They don't hold them permanently. So we ended up bringing them in early. We haven't built our permanent exhibit, but they needed that space for their lions, and so we provided a nice home for them. So those three boys, and in the wild, groups of male lions hang together as a team, and so they would spend their whole lives together as a group. So
Yeah, I didn't realize how much of that happened in zoos between, moving animals around, letting, with the different AZA zoos and stuff until I was talking to John there at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm about it. It was before I had met you, and I don't think I'd ever really digested the intricacies behind all that and all the things that are going on, and
yeah,
it's very cool.
we want to keep genetically diverse populations of animals for their well-being. Most zoos and programs, we're not typically breeding animals for release. Those are specialized programs. But we want to keep them genetically healthy and diverse, and so we manage it. It is computer dating. We look at something called mean kinship, and there's a lot of people who work in institutions that are just experts of the statistics of managing animal populations. So,
Wow.
okay.
There you go.
We'll keep asking animal ones. So there are a couple of Florida species that we play a hand actually inbreeding and returning to the wild. Often these are little creatures you might not have heard of, but they make a big difference in the world. Do you know any of those species? No, this is
I got to stay out of this one.
Oh, because you know them?
Yeah, I got to stay out of this one.
Okay, well, alligators.
Yeah, they're not rare or endangered, and he would know
Okay.
how to breed them before I would. So
What about scrub jays?
scrub jays we don't actually breed, but that's a good one.
That would be an interesting one if it was even. I don't know if that would even be possible. I'm sure it would.
Oh, I'm sure it would. I mean,
That's one of their biggest, I think, downfalls, is it not? The fact that they don't have enough diversity between their population right now.
we hope it doesn't get to that, but you're right. So it's habitat first of all, and then it's exchange of genetic materials between the habitats, and that's one of the reasons they wanted to translocate scrub jays for places that were going to be developed and not lose that genetic set and move them. But I'll tell you the story. I think we talked about it. We're really proud of is there's the last breeding bird in North America to go extinct went extinct on our watch here. Right, it was the dusky seaside sparrow on Merritt Island went extinct.
Indeed.
And really a tragedy and a loss. We can put people on the moon, but we couldn't save the sparrow. And so there's another bird called a Florida grasshopper sparrow that was down to something like I can't remember, it was 30 or 60 birds, 30 pairs. And we think it's really lost because of, among other things, fire ants eating the chicks because they nest on the ground. And by the way, there's all these other new species of invasive ants, and we think they're wiping out the fire ants. So maybe fighting fire with fire is getting better.
I have not heard that one. That's interesting.
Oh yeah, they're different species, the Caribbean crazy leg ants and other things, and they wipe out the fire ants. So they
What
have
a
other-
name.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason I say all that is we ended up being one of a few groups actually working with Florida grasshopper sparrows just a few years ago, and this year was our first breeding year, and we ended up having
Wow.
42 chicks go back out to the wild.
That's amazing.
And I'm trying to remember, I think there's 125 or 150 birds left, and 42 of them came from the zoo. And that was our first year breeding them. We were super proud of that. We really figured it out. We played them Barry White all the time, and it worked out great.
The lighting had to be just right.
Just right.
Red or white one? Which one?
There
Red
we go.
or white?
And we even ended up fostering some wild chicks they brought to us. So for our first year breeding, we were just blown away on our ability to make an impact. And
That's amazing.
and one day I went to one of the releases, and interestingly enough, we opened this like an overnight hacking cage where you put them overnight to get a bit to it. We opened the cage, and one of the wild ones flew in and started feeding with them. Like, hey, let me show you the ropes around here. So pretty cool stuff.
The zoo's involved with. I mean, you guys I said that in the beginning, but you guys are truly a cornerstone to everything conservation that's happening one way or the other here in Central Florida. And Keith, it's amazing.
Well, thank you. It's a little bit. I can't. There's lots of great work going that we don't touch at all, but
somehow or another, it seems like everybody has a connection to you guys somehow.
Well, we really do. We really do trying to listen to the needs of the community. We don't have our own agenda. I mean, that's what's been really distinctive. A lot of places have these beautiful strategic conservation plans, low and out 20 years. This is our plan. Come to us with a need. And if we have a skill set that can address it, I think this. If you had asked me 3 years ago where I'd been spending time on trying to restore seagrasses and manatees, I'd go, oh, no, that's way too difficult. It is half our time now with manatees and seagrasses because that's where the need is and that's where we're going to go. And that's worked out really well for us. The community appreciates that. I mean, one of the reasons we're actually working on seagrasses is while doing our oyster and clam work, we had homeowners come out and go, people say, seagrasses, we know this is like the base. Who should we, give money to? And we would give them other places. And then finally would say, no, we want to give the money to you. So we honestly, that's what started us down that road. People writing us checks saying, please, we want you to get involved in seagrasses. So we're starting to build our first nurseries right now as a part of a group of 5 groups working together to try to see if we can really get our hands on that process of restoring seagrasses together with everybody else, as you mentioned.
Well, we appreciate you, buddy. We appreciate what you stand for. We appreciate what you're representing, what you're doing. And again, if people want to go to the zoo's website and learn more about what's going on.
BrevardZoo.org.
Okay.
We'll get you everything.
We appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. It was a blast. I love what you guys do, too. So thanks for having me.
You're the best, buddy. Thank you a bunch.
Thank you.
All right, Bill, Cindy, another awesome one in the books.
There we go, in the books.
All right. Well, guys, we'll catch you all next week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all then. Bye-bye.
Try not to